it?
I did like it, actually.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, it was good.
Now, we will have a spoiler section later on. We'll warn you when that happens, so for now, you're good. But before we get into anything about it, I just want to talk about the basic history again, just for anybody who doesn't know what this is, just to get you up to speed. It's the first Japanese-made Godzilla film by Toho in 12 years. It's the first to only feature Godzilla and no other monsters since '84. It's the first to feature certain music cues since '54, the original. And it's the first, I think, to be a straight-up reboot. You know, because typically lots of the other ones would always be connected to the original. They'd be like, you know, a sequel to the original, but ignoring all the other ones.
You said there were certain music cues that
Yeah.
are since the original.
Like there were certain...
Because they used the Godzilla theme song in a lot of the sequels.
Yeah, they did, but there was a few music cues from the original that they never used.
Oh, really?
Until now.
Oh, I didn't even
They
realize
used
that.
a lot of sound effects, too, so they did a lot to, like, sort of tie it with the
Okay.
original. But as far as continuity goes, this one is starting completely over, even reinvents Godzilla's origin and stuff like that. And also, it's the first to potentially coexist with American-made Godzilla sequels. So we may have two different Godzilla series happening at the same time. So history has repeated itself. Every time there's an American-made Godzilla movie, it always brings the Japanese Godzilla out of hibernation. Like the 1998 version with Matthew Broderick, one from TriStar. That one, it wasn't received very well. So then Toho came back and started making them again, and they made 6 of them right there in the early 2000s, and then Godzilla Final Wars was the last of those, and that was in 2004. So it's been that long since there's been a Toho film, and I'm really happy to finally see one.
It would be awesome if the new American Godzilla sets them off to make another 6, because I'm hoping that this isn't the only one of these.
Exactly. I hope that they start making them again. Yeah, the Gareth Edwards one in 2014 from Legendary Pictures, that was a great attempt, I thought, but I still wasn't very satisfied. I had some gripes with it. So what did you think of that one?
It was okay. To me, it just didn't feel like a Godzilla movie. It was my only thing. The Godzilla looked a lot more like he should have than in the 1998 version, but it still didn't have that like Toho feeling to it.
There's something about the tone, yeah.
The tone of it, yeah. I thought it was okay though.
Yeah, I thought so too. And I elaborate further in my review of it. So if you want to know more about what I think of that one, watch my second review of that one, because the second one I go more in depth. So the release of this movie has been a little bit confusing because it came out in Japan this past July, and for a while we weren't really sure on when we would ever get to see it here. And then they were saying that a company called New World Cinemas was going to be distributing it here, and that turned out to be completely bogus. And it turned out it was really confusing because New World Pictures was a company that distributed the Godzilla 1985. So this is a totally unrelated company. But anyway, Funimation came in, thankfully, and is releasing it here in some limited theaters. So thanks to Funimation, it is coming out. So we got to see an early screener, but there's other screenings popping up around the U.S. There's a premiere in L.A., which I think just happened, and then one in New York City, and then there's going to be some limited theatrical run October 11th. The movie has 2 titles, and I feel like it wouldn't be a real Godzilla movie if there wasn't more than one title. Shin Godzilla and Godzilla Resurgence, but I don't think they're calling it that anymore. I don't know, because Godzilla Resurgence was supposed to be the American name for it.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, but the version we saw said Shin Godzilla. So I don't know, but Shin means true, new, or God, so I'm just going to call it God Godzilla. After all, they compare him to God in the movie. So anyway, let's talk about the movie more now. So as we said already, it felt more like an authentic Godzilla movie. And that's what I hoped for in my trailer response video when I talked about it. I said that, it's not for me, it's not a real Godzilla movie unless it's made in Japan.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as champagne. Anybody can make sparkling wine and call it champagne, but if it's not from France, it's not really champagne. Same thing with Godzilla.
I felt the exact same way. Yeah, it's just Japan has a different culture, and I think when anybody else tries to make a Godzilla movie, it just doesn't feel the same way because it's not coming from the same people.
Yeah.
And this movie at least had that feeling to it. There were parts of the movie where I actually felt like, okay, I'm watching an actual Godzilla movie here, which felt good because it's been since Final Wars.
Yeah, and it's hard to pinpoint what that is. Like, there's just something in the tone of it.
It's just a feeling.
Yeah.
And that's why it's hard to sit here and describe it. It's like, oh, the way I felt watching it. It's like I felt that it was a Godzilla movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I still felt like the 2014 version respected the character, and it did a really great job. It was a great attempt, but there was a lot of things that it sort of fell flat on.
It's just like if you think about the old movies and like watching them like in line, I feel like it just seems a little bit out of place. Like it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, that one, in comparison to like the original Toho series, where I felt like this one could have come right after and been like a natural feeling without feeling like a totally different thing. You know?
And that's not to say this one was perfect either. Like I think it was far from perfect, but it felt more authentic. And when I say it's more authentic, I don't mean it's necessarily better than the 2014 version. I think that's debatable. Like I can see the 2014 one connects with American audiences a lot better. My suspicion is that this one won't connect with American audiences as much.
That's probably true.
It's more for the Godzilla fans, I think. So if you're a fan, I think it's a must see. But if not, then probably shouldn't bother. If you're just just a casual moviegoer or
That's
whatever.
Fair, yeah.
Yeah. It needed Bryan Cranston. That would have made it. The thing is, the first act of the 2014 version I thought was amazing. I thought it was a great, great build-up, but that it just had that really strong first act, and then the rest of it never exceeded that. Let's talk about the special effects. Now, one thing I said in the trailer response video was that it also has to be an actor in a suit for it to be authentic, and it looked like an actor in a suit, but I think this was entirely CG, actually.
Honestly, I couldn't tell one way or the other. I figured like a lot of it was CG, but as I was watching the movie, but there were parts where I was like, oh, that might be a guy in a suit. So to be honest with you, I couldn't tell the difference whether or not it was a suit or not. So I think they did a really good job with that.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that. I think, yes, they did a great job. I mean, I was fooled by the trailer. If the trailer was all CG, I was fooled. But I heard that they filmed an actor in a suit. They tried out some puppets and animatronics, but they didn't like the result, so they ended up doing all CG. But there was an actor. There was a motion capture person. But on one hand, I feel really sad to know that when a Godzilla movie isn't using a person in a suit, then the era has totally died.
Well, you know what though? I mean, if they got it to the point where I couldn't tell the difference, and I don't think you really could either, then it's like fine. If they do that good a job with it, like the thing that bothered me is when you watch CG and it looks like CG.
Yeah.
But if it looks realistic enough, then okay, fine.
There were some parts that looked a little poor that I could tell, okay, that's a CG, but most of it was really good. It looked as if they didn't make Godzilla do much that an actor in a suit couldn't do. So he moved the same way, and like we said, it had the same feel. So I feel like, okay, maybe it's a little less authentic then because it's not an actor in a suit, but it still achieved the same effect and did a good job.
I was fine with it.
In my detailed review of the 2014 version, I talked a lot about how Godzilla looks best when you're looking up at him, and in this, I love the shots. The shot choices were, I couldn't have asked for better. Like, there was one part I remember where it looked as if the camera was on like a moving vehicle, and it went underneath him, and you're just looking up at him the whole time.
There was a lot of great angles.
Yeah, the camera angles were great.
There was one part that I saw, I think it's in the trailer, it might be, where Godzilla's tail like goes over the buildings. That's one shot I thought was kind of cool. But there was a lot of scenes of Godzilla, or the scenes that there were of Godzilla, That's the kind of the problem, is that there wasn't all that much Godzilla in the movie, but when Godzilla was in the movie, all the angles were awesome.
Yeah,
so I agree with you.
And they never teased in the same way that the 2014 version would build up to this monster fight, and then it would just cut away and then show the aftermath.
No, it didn't do that.
Yeah, that was bullshit, so I'm glad that they didn't do that. Also, you see Godzilla mostly in the day, so you can see him clear, where in the 2014 version, it was always dark and murky, and it's always at night.
There were some night scenes
There were
in this,
some night scenes, but
and I thought
mainly
that those
at
were
day.
pretty good too. Like even at night,
Yeah.
you could see him well.
Mm-hmm.
It was really well lit.
Yeah, it was like you could see everything that was happening.
Yeah.
The music, as we said, they used a lot of stock music from the original and a lot that hasn't been heard since the original. But also they had new music in there, which is in the trailer also, and that I thought was amazing.
Yeah. The part in the movie when the theme song comes on, a lot of people might feel like, oh, okay, here they go, they're using the same music again.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, it's been 12 years since there's been a Godzilla movie, and honestly, that was one of the parts of the movie where when the music came on, I was like, okay, now it's getting good, because for the first part of the movie, Godzilla isn't really Godzilla yet, but then finally they cut back and Godzilla is now he really looks like Godzilla now, and then also at the same time the theme song comes on, you're like, okay, now I'm watching a Godzilla movie, and he starts fucking shit up, and you're like, this is now awesome. That's the part. At that point, I felt like, okay, this is what I came to the theater to see.
True. They did use it when it was appropriate.
Yeah.
Like an example of a movie that they could never get appropriate was the Halloween remakes. Well, the second one didn't even use the music at all. It was like, fuck it, we're not even using it. But the first Halloween remake, Rob